In this first part of our chapter on sociological research, we'll look at approaches to sociological research. First, we need to understand what scientific method is. This is a systematic method that scholars employed in order to answer a particular research question, and a part of that involves testing a hypothesis. So for sociologists who are more interested in learning about society, their questions are usually about the social world around us. Chemists, they ask questions related to chemistry. For biologists, of course, their questions relate to biology. Physicists, their research questions are related to physics, and so on. So this is a method that is quite universal in the sense that it's employed by nearly, all scholars across all disciplines. So I won't be very surprised if you haven't seen it. So the method follows specific steps, and this again is a universal set of steps that are also employed across all disciplines. The first step is to ask a question. Sociologists, their questions might pertain to certain groups of people, how and why they act a certain way. Their questions might pertain to institutions, issues like accessibility, who gets access, for example, to healthcare system, and so on. And then the first thing they would do is to research existing sources. So this is called literature review. They want to know what other scholars have done on a topic related to theirs. And then from there, they will formulate hypotheses related to their research questions. And then from there, by the way, hypothesis is an educated guess about what would be the answer to their question. And then they would then move forward to conduct a study in order to test that hypothesis, whether to support it or to reject it. And once they've designed the study, in this step, they collect data. So once they've completed that, they will draw conclusions based on the data that they collected. Then they'll report the results to the scientific community, to the public about what they found. And this whole cycle repeats itself again. Scientists want to repeat their study multiple times in order to make sure that their research is valid and reliable, which relates to our next slides. So there are three. The scientific methods has at least three ideas that are very important. First is empirical evidence, which is the idea that the data are scientifically gathered. Science is based on data, on evidence that can be empirically collected. So they're not just random hunches or assumptions. Another important feature of scientific methods and research is that the data measure what the study intends to measure. So that's called validity. And last is that the data are reproducible. So that means that the data is reliable. So let's say I repeat my study 10 times. Ideally, my results are quite similar. So that means that my study is reliable. So let me stop here before I go into the next section.